we offer practical advice to strengthen families. This month, we're talking about a topic that affects every family with school-aged children: sleep. Sleep is one of the most powerful tools we have to support student health, focus, and learning, yet it's also one of the most overlooked factors. Parents know the struggles of bedtime routines, busy schedules, early mornings, but many may not realize how much consistent sleep impacts a child's mood, behavior, and academic success. We're bringing together both our medical and school professionals to share their expertise on this topic today. We'll be talking about healthy sleep patterns, what that looks like at different ages, why it matters for learning and growth, and what parents can do at home to set their children up for success in the classroom and beyond. Thanks for joining us on Avera Family Forum. And Dr. Ike, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Dr. Sherry Ike. I'm a pediatrician at Avera.
Thank you. And Jill.
I'm Jill Osterberg. I'm the Success Coordinator at Lowell Elementary.
Go ahead.
And I'm Rachel Anderson. I'm a school counselor at Ben Rifle Middle School.
Very good. Well, thank you all for being here today. How many of you are mothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only are you getting medical and school advice, but also from speaking as parents ourselves, where we know the struggles. You can all relate to, there's just not enough hours in the day. We've got, to do all the things we have to do, and then we do the things we want to do, and then we have to still eat and maybe do some homework and as a society, I think we're really pushing the limits at times. Would you say that is true?
Yes, that is definitely true.
Yeah.
We try to fit more and more into every day.
Yeah, and so we talk about this term sleep hygiene. When we're talking about sleep hygiene, what are we actually talking about here?
So sleep hygiene are those practices, behaviors, routines that set us up for healthy sleep, quality sleep, which is really important.
Right, and so a certain number of hours of sleep. Now, you're probably different than I am. We're all going to be a little bit different in terms of what we need for sleep. How can we know how much sleep our children actually need?
So it varies a little bit by age. So preschoolers, we want them to get about 10 to 13 hours per day. Some of them don't need naps, some still do. In grade school, we're looking at more like 9 to 12 hours, and then our teenagers, 8 to 10 hours.
Okay. So would you say most kids that you're working with are getting the amount of sleep that is recommended by Dr. Ike here?
No, even as she says that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, then my middle schooler probably should have gone to bed earlier last night. We see a lot in the schools in terms of, hyperactivity because of lack of sleep. I talk to a lot of students that are up late at night without a whole lot of supervision, or sneaking in electronics to their bed and really looking at, okay, but what time is all of that actually going off? Because parents can report, hey, we're going to bed at a decent time. I'm putting him to bed at 8:30. But then when you peel back the layers, you're realizing that a lot of these students are up much later than that, participating in electronics and other things.
Yeah, they tend to figure ways around the rules. And that's just human nature.
Yep, absolutely.
Doesn't mean your kids are bad kids. I mean, they're going to test the limits, right?
Yep.
Definitely. What do you see at the middle school?
I mean, a lot of that. I will say, I think a lot of times we forget the impact of puberty on sleep and how much your body is changing, especially in those middle school years.
Yes.
They need that rest to be able to regulate all of those hormones and growing and all of those pieces. Much like your teenage boy is eating you out of house and home, they should probably be sleeping more too then. And so remembering that piece, I think as a kid gets older, you expect them to be able to identify, oh, I'm tired, I should go to bed. But I would say most of my middle schoolers, even the ones who are really in touch with themselves, are bad at that. And I would say even grown-ups are bad at that.
Yeah.
Right. So, making sure I have a child who's getting to be about middle school age, and working with her on that, because I was, in elementary school or in those younger years, you do have a set bedtime, and you read a book, and you do all those things. And then as they get older, you kind of let that fall to the wayside. But those kids need just as much structure, and consistency so that they know their body is getting that rest that they need.
Yeah. What kind of behaviors do you see in the schools that indicate to you that maybe kids aren't getting enough sleep? I mean, are we talking about kids physically falling asleep during class? Is it behavior? What happens when you notice, okay, maybe the routine at home is a little less structured than it needs to be?
Yeah, I think you touch on all of it because it affects them behaviorally. It affects, we have all the way from they're literally falling asleep within the class and unable to wake up for hours, to increased irritability, lack of attention. Some of them just get really hyper. And a lot of times I identify it by understanding like, oh, this feels like a toddler tantrum right now.
Oh, sure.
So I'm wondering if I'm dealing with a lack of sleep and just really understanding how to, if is this a one-time thing where there's just something going on, or is this a long-term thing where I'm contacting parents and letting them know like the importance of the routines and that kind of thing, has been something I've had those conversations with parents a number of times.
Yeah. And I know, Rachel, you said too, you see that a lot at the middle school level.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had kids sleeping in class, but also the other end of it, which is they're trying so hard to stay awake that, it's almost bigger behaviors and bigger actions. But also like even a quieter stuff like getting behind on schoolwork because they can't focus when they get home at night, or not being able to concentrate, missing pieces of directions because they've kind of floated off into space,
right?
That sort of thing. And so there's definitely some loud ways to tell that a student is not getting enough sleep, but there's also a lot of quiet ways that it shows up too.
Sure. And sometimes that's the not feeling well kind of thing. And then they end up at the medical professionals saying, oh, I don't feel good, or I have a headache, or whatever.
Well, they're sick a lot because not getting enough sleep can affect your immune system. So some of those kids now are even missing school because they're sick because they weren't getting enough sleep, and that just affects your whole body.
Right. And so when people come to you, or when families come to you and there's a child that needs to be seen for a medical, what is it most often? Are they coming with stomach aches, headaches?
It's pretty variable, yeah. So, I mean, lack of sleep can definitely lead to like anxiety and depression, and that can give you headaches and stomach aches, but just lack of sleep on its own can lead to headaches. Sometimes it's ADHD concerns. We're super hyper, we can't pay attention, we're missing things. Well, are we sleeping okay at night? Is that why we're having problems focusing? So you really have to go and kind of dive into like, what is your daily schedule looking like? How are you sleeping? Just because you're, in bed, are you actually sleeping?
Right. So digging down as a pediatrician, I'm sure you get to know your patients and your families throughout time. How is it to have a conversation with a family about that? Do you see a light bulb go on when it seems to be that maybe sleep is the issue, or
sometimes it depends. Some parents know their kids are just not sleeping well, and then when I bring it up, they're like, "See, told you." So you have to hear it from me because they don't want to listen to mom and dad. Other times, parents are reporting like, "Yeah, we're going to bed. We got this routine. Everything sounds good there." And then I look at the child and say, "Okay, so what time are you actually falling asleep?" And then they're kind of like, okay.
And that's where maybe the story starts to weave itself together a little bit more often. What kind of things should parents be looking for if their child isn't sleeping, and maybe they, we all say, oh, time to go to bed. And so they go into their room and, the door closes and we don't hear too much out of the room, and we think, okay, they're off to sleep. But what should a parent be really looking for?
Well, first thing I would say is keep the phones out of the bedroom, because it is too easy for them to even go under the covers so you can't see the little glowing light even when you look in the door. Keep it out of the bedroom. Buy an alarm clock. I hear from so many kids, I need my phone. It's my alarm clock. They have an invention. It's called an alarm clock, and it's not that expensive. You can get one of those.
I think you can get them pretty inexpensively now.
Exactly.
Nowadays.
You can do that instead of your phone.
Right.
But, obviously they're listening. Are they getting up? Are they moving around? But then how are they in the morning? Can you get them out of bed? Or is it like waking, a zombie, trying to get them and like, pulling them out of bed every single morning. That's a pretty good tell that they're not getting enough sleep if they can't get up.
Right. What happens to the brain and body? I know when I am overtired, I physically feel like heavy.
Right.
Like I can't, like I'm in slow motion.
Right.
What happens to the body when it's really lacking those basics?
Yeah, so you feel sluggish or hyper, and younger kids especially tend to be more hyper. I think it's just trying to keep themselves awake, just keep moving, and then we can't fall asleep. But yeah, like we talked about the headaches and the stomach aches, increased anxiety, depression, difficulty focusing, increased obesity risk for if you're chronically not getting enough sleep, which is an interesting thing. Yeah, there's a lot more we're finding out that sleep contributes to long-term memories. If you don't get good sleep, you have a hard time making your long-term memories, which is going to make school a whole lot harder if you can't commit to what you're learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or that recall of past, and then you lose focus again because, you don't remember what it was from before or whatever. And that can really show itself in the classroom and just even sometimes in the downtime of lunchroom, that type of thing, where we know in classrooms it's a little bit more, organized. Then you get into those hallway spaces and lunch areas and free places like gym and things like that.
Impulsivity can be very big for those tired kids. They just have less self-control.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true for all of us. So what about at the school level? I know our teachers are very aware of not just assigning homework for the sake of homework, that you want to make sure it's good use of time so that we're not piling on, hours worth of homework in the evening and then making that also a struggle for families as well. But what kind of conversations are at the school level about homework? I mean, you want to make sure that kids are grasping concepts, but not feeling overwhelmed with homework, would you say?
I spend a lot of time working with my students to stay caught up on homework and not get in that pile. I think really when I see it getting difficult for a student, it's not if they have one or two assignments, they can get it done over the weekend. We have a lot of teachers who are very flexible about, we want to teach kids things are due when they're due because that's a good strategy for life. And at the same time, there are things like, I was sick or I had a tournament or something like that. That makes it hard to get things in on time. And most of, my middle school teachers will work with a kid on those pieces, but you do need to get the work done. And so a lot of times, like this weekend, we had a longer weekend. We had a 4-day weekend. And so I was meeting with some students on Friday and saying like, okay, you've got all this time. You're going to be able to, take a nap, play with your friends, but can you make sure that, you use that time also to get a little caught up because you're in this hole. You've got 4 or 5 missing assignments. I don't want it to be a big pile because that's the other balance of talking about homework is when it gets to be too much, you can talk to them all you want, but if the pile is too big, they're not going to get it done.
It's insurmountable.
Exactly.
It looks insurmountable to them. And
no teacher, no one in a school wants a student to feel defeated, to feel like they can't handle it, to feel like they are, unable to be successful. And so the more, we want to strike that balance. You got to be responsible, but also, we want you to know you've got this handled.
Yeah. And usually at an elementary level, a homework is, maybe task oriented, do this, but maybe it's not super intense. Like you've got an hour or two of homework to do. Although if your kid really doesn't like reading, it may take an hour to get that accomplished or whatever the case is. But there is that expectation, setting expectations early in terms of, academics, and at the elementary, they have to do that as well. Well, Dr. Ike, you mentioned technology, and that seems like a significant issue among families. Of course, everybody has a different reason, a different grade level when they think it's acceptable for a student to have a phone. And there are many different reasons for why that is. But setting those parameters early.
Yes, it's super important. Really, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends less than an hour of screen time for preschoolers and none under 2. And less than 2 hours a day for fun things. So we don't count what they have to do at school, because a lot of that is done on tablets and Chromebooks, and they have to watch videos and do things. I'm not counting that in that 2 hours. But what they're choosing to do for fun, for entertainment purposes, that should go in that 2 hour limit.
So making sure that you know what those recommendations are.
Right.
And obviously, American Academy of Pediatrics is highly sought after resource where there's been a lot of studies and things like that. And
yes.
It's for the well-being, not just because we're going to put an arbitrary.
Exactly. And again, you got to look at what they're doing too, because I have some kids who are like, well, I use YouTube videos and I use tutorials. So I'm drawing or I'm, learning things. Okay. Well, that I probably wouldn't count in that entertainment category. Or I'm listening to music, and so my screen time counts it, but I'm not actually watching the screen. Okay. Again, that's probably okay. But we really need to know what they're doing on those screens too. If you're sitting there for 2 hours watching someone else play video games, I would say that is not a good use of your time.
I, as a mother, I don't get that.
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Mother of a son, watching someone else play a video game.
Right?
I don't get it.
Nope, I don't understand that either.
Yeah, it's a different concept, I guess. But so technology, I would imagine you see some elementary students
Absolutely.
who have phones and use them, and oftentimes, I mean, we've all seen it. You're sitting somewhere and mom hands the 3-year-old a phone and they start watching. They know how to operate.
Oh, absolutely
the phone almost
do.
better than the parent does. And to a degree, we're not saying that's completely off limits, but to a degree, it has to be kept within balance. But what are some of the things do you see kids at the elementary relying on phones? I know not through the school day is
absolutely
not supposed to be.
Well, and I'm even learning situations now where kids have phones where parents aren't even aware that kids are having phones. And so there are situations out there where they are on these technologies at bedtimes, especially, kind of as a hiding technique even, to just stop parents from being aware. So definitely something to think about and know about. And then just the blue light reflection in and of itself, and the way that if you're looking at YouTube shorts and you have the instant gratification of just swiping to the next thing, you're creating an attention span issue, which is going to lead to harder sleep patterns as well. So yeah, the phones have become a very big, or tablets of some sort, have become an issue multiple times, where those hard conversations have to happen with those families to be able to understand, this is happening behind your back sometimes even.
Where are the kids getting the phones then?
Broken
devices.
People have gotten new ones, and then their old ones are just there, and
You can put them on Wi-Fi.
and Wi-Fi works.
Yeah. There's Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm a dumb parent.
Aren't we all?
I'm always amazed at the
have my
ways.
kids.
I'm always amazed at the ways that students I work with can find workarounds. I work in the schools, and so I feel like I know kids. My husband works in technology, and so we've always said if you can get past both of us, that's pretty impressive. And yet,
Kids don't stand a chance.
you would say that, but there are times that she's been able to get past it.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. And if you give a kid, they're so creative, and you don't want to squash that. That's it's great problem solving,
Right.
But at the same time, it can be really destructive. I talk a lot with my students about there's a difference between bedtime and sleep time. And, you can have a 9 p.m. bedtime, but if you don't sleep time until 1, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
That's cute. But that time did not work towards your sleep.
Right.
And a lot of times kids have, gaming devices and phones and tablets and lots of things in their rooms. And you do just kind of believe, if they were quiet, that they're doing what they're supposed to. And a lot of times I'll get, oh no, I was texting until 2 a.m. because my friend had a crisis. And I understand it. I do. Every student wants to be connected, and fear of missing out is not a small thing, especially in middle and high school.
For sure.
But at the same time, if you're getting a text at 3 a.m., that's probably a grown-up sized problem that a parent should know about, or something that can wait for the morning. It's one of the two. You shouldn't at 12, 13. That's not going to be something that you're going to solve.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the other factor is caffeine in today's world, and that plays a huge role.
Yes.
How many of us needed our coffee first thing this morning?
Absolutely.
And it's a crutch for a lot of people, but we're certainly seeing that impact children as well.
Oh, the energy drinks and the hidden energy drinks. So many kids don't have any idea how much caffeine they're consuming. They'll have a couple of Alanis or a Celsius, and I'm like, do you know how much caffeine is in there? They're like, looks like a pop. No, it is not. So you have to really look at the caffeine content on your ingredient labels and your nutrition labels to know how much is in there.
Right. And so buying that as a parent, oh, I like these. And so you're buying we go to Sam's and Costco and we're buying the whole, the big, whatever, 24 pack, whatever. But having to moderate that is important.
Yes, because, some of them are, they're like a coffee or a soda, like, 60 to 80 milligrams of caffeine, which is probably okay, one a day. But some of them are 200 milligrams of caffeine or even higher. That's a lot of caffeine. And then they put them in with other things like guanine and taurine and other enhancers that really make it even harder.
What are those?
They're amino acids, but they can enhance the effects of caffeine.
Okay.
And interestingly, they're supplements. So the dietary supplements, which means they are not regulated by the FDA. And so we don't actually know exactly how they work or what they do or how much is okay. But you look at the energy drinks, a lot of those energy drinks contain those extra ingredients.
Wow, this is something I'm going to have to go back and look at because I'm not familiar with that necessarily. But how often, I know, kids in elementary and middle school, a lot of them want to have a water bottle or something like that. That's been the last 5 years or so post-COVID is everybody brings their own water bottle and that kind of thing. It's supposed to be water in the bottle, but kids are drinking any amount of things, Gatorades, whatever, which may have some sugars also. Electrolytes are good, but again, in moderation with all things. Do you see caffeine as a problem for kids at the elementary, would you say?
I think at the elementary level, a lot of what I see with caffeine is the pattern of sleep that it creates, because then we have the crash. And sometimes that crash happens at 3 p.m, or they've been tired all day, so then they nap really hard when they get home, and they're sleeping for 2 or 3 hours, and then they lose that rhythm to be able to naturally fall asleep at night too. So that's more of what I deal with that. I don't see a whole lot of and maybe I'm naive to it, but I don't see a whole lot of the caffeine in the elementary school in terms of energy drinks. We've occasionally seen like the Starbucks as a morning drink that comes through the door or whatnot. So I know it's out there, and I'm sure when they go home, that's probably happening. And then, if you're having it late in the afternoon and then you're not falling asleep because of that, you're again creating that pattern and that rhythm that's hard to get back and maintain once you've created it.
And that's really what it has to be with sleep is a rhythm.
Yes, you need that routine.
Circadian rhythm. Right? Yeah, like the time when the sun is up, that's when we are up. When it is dark, we should be sleeping as well, ideally anyway. But the other thing that was mentioned that I wasn't aware of is what many people call caffeine pouches. And these are almost like little tiny filters that you can put in the corner of your mouth, and they're like the nicotine pouches, but with caffeine instead. Yes, and those are able to be purchased.
Yep. I don't think there's any age limit on them.
Right.
And again, they're pretty variable. There are some that are like 25 milligrams of caffeine, and there are some that are 200.
Yikes.
Right, and it's going to absorb directly through your mouth into your bloodstream, so it's going to hit fast. So I'd imagine the crash is probably going to be fast as well.
Wow.
And usually available right at the checkout at a gas station.
Yeah. And I'm at the gas station, paying for my whatever as well, and just not even recognizing that that's what's out there. Now I've heard of like the nicotine type of thing, but I wasn't even aware that
the container looks the same. It's a little round container. It looks like the nicotine or the chewing tobacco.
Or the little kind of
like the mints ones, or like the
Altoids or Altoids, whatever they're called, or mints or whatever. They're in a round little container, and I had no clue that there were even things out there that were caffeine pouches. But that awareness, our kids know this for some reason, right? Middle school, I don't know.
They figure it out.
They learn a lot in middle school. They do. Not just from their teachers.
Right. And I know, Rachel, you said also anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
That you see a lot of kids who say they have anxiety or really truly do. And that sleep kind of impacts that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to handle any emotion when you're tired, but the struggle with anxiety is that it just perpetuates that tired so much. It used to be that we would talk about depression as like the thing that we were worried about in students and that we saw a lot. And now I would say, and you can correct me if you're wrong, but I would say anxiety is much higher than we were worried about for depression. Just kids have lots of reasons to be anxious. And I always, remind myself, and I also remind my parents I work with, and I remind myself as a parent, just because it doesn't seem like something to be anxious about when you're an adult, doesn't mean it's not something to be anxious about when you're a kid. It's a big enough problem for them to have those feelings, even if it doesn't seem like that. You can say, that 6th grade boyfriend, it's not that big of a deal. Right. And I, as an adult, I know that, but that doesn't mean that it feels that way to your 6th grader. It feels like the end of the world. And so those big feelings, and then not being able to handle them. And so when you're tired or when you're over caffeinated, both of those things can really come into play and make it that much harder to work with that.
And anxiety can actually make it hard to fall asleep too. So it works both ways. So if you're already anxious and you manage to keep yourself busy all day long, you lay down, there's nothing distracting you anymore, and all those anxieties come to the surface. And then I can't fall asleep because my mind won't stop racing from one thing to the next. So I hear that a lot too.
Yes. I can say that might have happened to me over the week.
Right?
I think it is more common when I'm working with a student on an educational concern, an emotional or a social concern. If I talk to them about, how are you sleeping? It'll be that. It'll be, I'm not sleeping well, because that is the time in the day when I'm not going. And all of a sudden I'm able to think about that embarrassing thing that I said in class at 9 a.m. Or that funny look I got from my friend at lunch, and in the confines of like your room or, when you're by yourself, those thoughts can really run wild.
Yeah. And nightmares, you said too. Kids are have had so many things happening during the day that they're fearful sometimes of falling asleep because they don't know what their mind's going to tell them in the middle of the night. But you've had those conversations with kids too, the nightmares. Yeah,
absolutely.
And that keeps them awake. So what do you tell kids? What are some strategies or a strategy that a parent can share with a student in order to fall asleep? We know the routine is important. That's probably first and foremost, routine. Keeping then the technology out of the hands, making sure that the caffeine intake is moderated. But what strategies can people use?
So as part of that routine, I really encourage kids to find a quiet activity that they find relaxing. I mean, that could be coloring or drawing. It could be journaling. There's a lot of like meditation. Now, it's a double-edged sword there, because a lot of times you have to have like a device of some sort to do that, so that has to be monitored. But if they practice with that, they eventually can do it without needing the guidance. But journaling can be very helpful for a lot of kids to get those thoughts out of your mind and onto paper, and then you can shred the paper. You rip it up in little pieces if you want to. It's not meant for anybody else to read. It's just to kind of have a release.
Mm-hmm. And those practices, I guess, I'm thinking of, I downloaded an app, just that breathing pattern kind of app where you breathe when the line goes up, and then as it goes down, you exhale, and those types of things.
There's actually a little device you can get, a little disc that you sit like on your bedstand, nightstand table.
Next to your alarm clock.
Yep, next to the actual alarm clock you have, not next to your phone.
Right.
And it's got a light that shines from the ceiling, and the light expands and contracts and expands and contracts, and you're supposed to breathe with it. And so it has forced focus, so not focusing on your thoughts, you're focusing on this light, and then it has the breathing time with it. And some people find that very helpful.
That does sound interesting. What strategies have you guys?
She said forced focus. I want to build off of that. Just being able to have something, you have to find a balance where your brain engages it, but not too much. You know, it's not the most fascinating part of your day. It's not a huge thing, but it is something that your brain focuses on other than all of those racing thoughts and pieces. And so, like, I work with students a lot on grounding techniques, which is just like checking in with their body. Like, okay, I'm going to do a check over. So first I'm going to feel my feet, then I'm going to feel my fingers, and like go to different parts of your body and just do a check-in. Or a strategy that I use with my own kids and that I use with my students is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is 5 things that you can see. You go through the 5 senses. So you do 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, and so on. Usually 1 thing you can taste because there's not a lot of taste. But the trick for if you're going to sleep is sometimes you get rid of the 5 things you can see because you don't want their eyes darting around the room. But things that help them get in touch with their body, it gives them that forced focus, but it's not so interesting as it's going to keep them awake. It just gets them, to a different level, to a different place. That's a good way to put it, so that they can let themselves drift off to sleep.
Yeah, I think I shared with you in preparation for this. I have no idea where I picked it up, but someone had said, when you have a difficult time falling asleep, pretend you're in a long hallway. Everything is white. The floor is white. The walls are white. The ceiling is white. And you are wearing white, and you are walking down the hall. Your hand is on the wall, and you just keep walking and walking and walking. And you continue to touch the wall and just continue to walk through this long hall. And I can't tell you how many times that stupid trick has worked for me. The whole counting the sheep, then I think, okay, what number was I on? And then I've kind of lost my focus there.
Too much focus.
Yeah.
Now I'm a color of the sheep.
They're all going in the same direction.
Right?
I kind of love the visual of the light that you talked about, because one of the things I use a lot with kids is when you start to have those racing thoughts, if you can just calm your brain down and really focus just on your breath and just literally think about, okay, I'm breathing in right now. Okay, I'm breathing out right now. Okay, I'm breathing in right now. Okay, I'm breathing. You have to breathe. And if you can just calm yourself that much to be able to focus on that moment, then your thoughts diminish. I mean, and we still respect those fleeting thoughts that are going to come in,
right?
But you can concentrate enough to be able to relax your body. And I've used that a number of times to help myself fall asleep. And I've seen success with kids that have said, Mrs. O, that worked last night.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, and when they recognize that and feel success, because like you said, Rachel, we want to set kids up for success, and everything that we do, we want them to feel like they're in control. They do have the ability to control those feelings. I know one thing I told my kids too is, you know what? Put whatever thoughts, feelings are out there in a box, put it on a shelf. It will be there in the morning. You can go back to those things in the morning, but for the night, put them on a shelf, an imaginary shelf, and just know that they're going to be there, and you can come back to it in the morning. It doesn't have to own you like that. So I think those things are, some middle schoolers might think they're corny, but
but if you are doing something cheesy, but it's just you in the room doing it in your head, it's only cheesy to you.
Right.
No one's going to make fun of you for it.
No one has to know that's what you're doing.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So we know that small changes at home can make a difference. We know that it's hard to implement routines, but starting with something is really, you have to start and then stick with it and advance that strategy or advance that routine in some particular way. What parting thoughts can you share with families that might help them in this journey?
So don't try to make big changes at once. If your child is currently falling asleep at midnight and you're like, okay, bedtime's 8 a.m. or 8 p.m., that is not going to work. So, maybe just move it up by half an hour at a time, make it achievable, and make your routine achievable. So it doesn't have to be an hour-long routine. It might be, a 15-minute routine, but get in the habit of doing that every time.
And you got to start today.
Right.
If today isn't it, and even if it doesn't go successfully at bedtime, because we all know, we can go at this with a really great plan, and then life happens, or somebody forgot they had to do some homework, or whatever the case is. But really persistent and consistent impact of that, we need to get in a better habit with that, because if we're not helping our kids, giving them the time to sleep, then it's difficult to be on task, to focus and learn and not have behaviors.
Regulate our emotions.
Regulate emotions. Other final thoughts from you, Jill or Rachel?
I think really just once you realize that the pattern is off, again, just finding those small things that you can do to change that so that you can become more self-aware. I think life is all about figuring out a balance, but sleep has to become a priority at some point. And when you're able to make that a priority, those little steps will be impactful so those patterns can be changed. And once you feel better and notice the successes, it's going to be easier to continue with that.
Yeah, very good.
I think it's helpful to think of it like a skill set. Just like we teach kids how to do a math problem or how to ride a bike, all of those pieces. It's sleeping and having good sleep hygiene is a skill set. And so, that means that we're allowed to fall off of our bike and we're allowed to do a problem wrong, and that's okay. We're just going to keep trying, because it is a lifelong skill that can do incredible things for you when you do it well. Or it can be a lifelong struggle. And I don't think anyone wants that for their kid.
No, exactly right. Good thing about this is we have 365 chances every year to try again. Even if it didn't work last night or last week, there's another opportunity 24 hours later to give it a shot again. So just don't give up on that. The routines are so critically important, and just a healthy body, a well-rested mind can take so much more information in and process problems and have more fun in life as well. So very good. Well, thanks ladies for joining us. Appreciate everyone joining us for Avera Family Forum.